Hello my friends, this is Indie Pride, and welcome back to Call of Warhammer, Beginning of the End Times. The three-way war for Karak EPIC has begun. Belegar Ironhammer, his Ironbreakers, and the Dawi of the City of Pillars are making their last stand against the temporary alliance of Greenskins and Skaven. This rivalry between Queek Headtaker, Warlord of Skaven Clan Moors, Skarsnik, Chieftain of the Crooked Moon Night Goblin Tribe, and Belegar Ironhammer, the true king of Karak EPIC, is one of the most iconic in Warhammer lore, and it will begin today on this massive dwarf Karak situated at the entrance to the Silverhorn mountain. So the Greenskins army is comprised of a ton of big guns and black orcs, unique siege towers moving into position, and rock lavas to punch through the gate. Plenty of 2 HP units on the field for the Greenskins. Those big guns and black orcs will take a lot of effort to bring down. Rock lavas will be trying to get through the gate so the Greenskin Tide can push through. There are also Doom Divers up on the mountain that have a fantastic line of sight to shoot down on the dwarf army. Looking at the Skaven, they have a lot of Warplock Jezzails, Storm Vermin with Halberds as a core, the Albino Guard in the red, the bodyguards with Grey Seers of Clan Scrutin, and of course Plague Monks of Clan Pestilence as well. 2 HP, very tanky troops. And then over on this side, Warp Lightning Cannons, more Jezzails, and if you've seen my High Elf replay, that siege replay I did about a month ago, you know that those Warp Lightning Cannons can devastate enemy infantry and also rip down gates very quickly. It only took 2 shots to destroy the gate there. Also got some Clan Rats and some Rat Ogres, the abominations and monstrosities of Clan Molder. So the Greenskin army is going to move up first, and you can see some of the dwarfs I left on the walls of this Karak have already gotten shredded by Doom Diver fire from the mountainside. They have a really good angle to fire down, and those Doom Divers can wreak havoc on infantry formations. So I've lost a lot of my dwarfs already on the walls. Longbeards getting ready to receive and lay out the red carpet for the Greenskin Tide that is approaching. Lots of big guns on the siege towers getting ready to move up. And this is an unfortunate thing about Medieval 2 sieges in general. It's not a problem with this mod per se, it's a problem with Medieval 2. A lot of the crenellations and the tops of city walls and castle walls will prevent gunpowder units from firing, so having my Thunders up on the walls won't be too efficient. They won't do much up there, but this is a very big Karak, lots of open space to maneuver and put my guys in positions to flank. Nice little cliff there to break up the charges from the Skaven and from the Greenskins, and we're going to be opening up a ton of different firing angles so we can shoot in with our Thunderers and with our Irondrakes, which have flamethrowers and will be doing a ton of damage to the Greenskin line as they move further into the Citadel. I have my Elders, my Dwarf Elders in the back here firing onto the big guns that are up on the walls. They do have a secondary weapon that gives them range capabilities, so those shots should be doing quite a bit of damage to the 2 HP units, and my Longbeards have had no trouble whatsoever clearing up that first wave of Greenskins on the siege towers. These big guns will be a problem in the center though. You can see all those dwarf dead already. We're barely into this game and I've already lost a couple of units of dwarf Longbeards. And the big guns are definitely making a foothold on the walls as the rest of the Greenskin pulls through the gate and gets ready to engage. So I'm going to be pulling some of my Ironbreakers and my Longbeards back into a position to tie down enemy troops. Hopefully want to be getting those angles in where I can fire in with my Thunderers from the flank. Don't want to be blocking the shots of my own troops, because a big way for us to win this battle, there are 2 dwarf players, myself and Hellstorm Ross. Big way for us to win is to make sure that our range units are able to fully utilize their ammunition. If they don't get their shots off, we're going to be in trouble, because our melee troops, while very good, are significantly outnumbered by the Greenskins and by the Skaven. So you can see the Boar Boys pulling through now, trying to get into the Thunderers, have more Longbeards ready to overlap in this engagement and prevent my Thunderers from getting charged in the face. Good shots coming in. The problem is a lot of these Greenskin units are 2 HP, so bringing them down with shots from the Thunderers will be difficult. It will take multiple shots to finally finish them off. Skaven Clan Rats getting ready to move up onto the walls, and it looks like Hellstorm over on this side is not going to be engaging him on the walls. Might be letting the Skaven get a foothold there and then shoot up into the engagement from below with his Thunderers. Not a bad idea at all. And Longbeards coming in to reinforce the battle at the gate. There's so many Greenskins pouring in now. The Boar Boys and the Big Guns making a big impact. And you can see some Goblin Fanatics going crazy in the center of that formation. Look at that damage they're causing, just tossing tons of dwarfs up into the air. And holding this gate is going to be a difficult proposition, to say the least. Rock Lava's still firing in, trying to get at my elders, who are holding right now. Still firing in. Need to pull them back, actually. Oh, and good shots coming in from the Goblin Doom Divers from the flank. Need to make sure that none of my elders are actually tied up in combat yet, because if one guy is tied up in combat, they won't be able to fire their secondary weapon, which is going to be very unfortunate. Need to make sure that they can fire for as long as possible, but they are going to finally get tied up now. Big Guns going to get into melee. My elders should be able to hold down this engagement for a while. I'm not worried about losing my general early on in this battle, because it's not that important. We're playing in a Medieval 2 Siege where my guys will rally at the capture point, so if I get a big morale penalty from the general dying, it won't be a big deal. And of course, in the beginning of the end times, morale isn't very wonky, especially for the dwarfs. They are very sturdy and will fight for a long time, even with the general dead. Yeah, my Irondrakes are firing in now, immolating the Greenskins. That is what I love to see. They are going to be a big factor in this battle, as you see giants trying to pull through. I bet they're trying to go straight for the Irondrakes, but those are going to be really important units. They can cause so much damage to these greenskin blobs and the Skaven hordes that are encroaching upon the settlement. If I can get them into a flanking position to fire into these huge masses of troops, I can cause untold devastation, which is exactly what I want to do. But they can be a bit fragile. Need to make sure that I protect my Irondrakes and make sure they don't go down early on in this battle. I have two of them. One of them is back in the plaza in the capture point, and one of them is out here dealing with these trolls right now. So looks like Vod Gojira, who's playing as the Greenskins, has moved up his stone trolls to get into melee with the Thunderers. I'm not going to be able to pull them away too easily. Gonna have to sacrifice some of my troops here. We are vastly outnumbered. Our opponents have a big funds advantage as well. I believe they have like a 25,000 or 30,000 gold advantage. We of course have the Karak itself, but we didn't upgrade the towers, which if you give them level 2 upgrades, they'll fire cannons from the top, and they're actually only at level 1 right now, so they only fire arrows, I believe. But they actually, I don't recall them firing anything in this battle. They might not actually shoot anything. Oh, good shots coming in from the Irondrakes. More immolation, more fiery death for the big guns. But they are pushing through, and there's a chariot in there as well, causing lots of damage to my Thunderers, cutting through them pretty easily. Swath of destruction through the back lines of my dwarf army. But I can deal with those chariots relatively easily. If I get a couple good shots in on them, they should go down pretty fast. Thunderers have no hope. Big guns and Black Orcs tied into melee, and more of the Storm Vermin piling in as well. Looks like there's some friendly fire from the Rock Lava, taking out the champion of that Skaven squad. He's going to get back up, but did some HP damage to him. And my elders are finally surrounded and cut to pieces, so I think my general is going to go down right now. He was the last Dwarf Thane in that engagement, making his last stand, brought down 5 or 6 of the big guns at least. But he is going to go down. Won't be a big issue for my army. Again, morale not the biggest issue for the dwarfs in general, and I do have the capture point to rally back at and make a last stand at. So I'm going to be trying to layer my defenses here and keep throwing in troops into the grinder to tie stuff down. Don't want to commit my Ironbreakers yet. I don't even think any of my Ironbreakers have seen melee combat. I think they're still in the plaza, still ready to reinforce, but they haven't gotten thrown in yet. I wanted to send in my Longbeards, some of my cheaper troops first, even though Longbeards are a good, technically mid-tier, or maybe moving towards elite unit for the dwarfs. I wanted to make sure they went into melee first because they can do well against big guns, even if they won't necessarily win. But I'm not throwing away my most expensive troops in the first opening sequences of the battle. Irondrakes are reloading and unleashing more flame into the big guns. It is unfortunate. I wish there were more Orc boys on the field, because any 1 HP unit that goes up against Irondrakes, if they're getting flamed, they are going to drop so fast. Big guns have some resistance with that 2nd HP. Same with Black Orcs, same with the Orc Boar Boy big guns. All of those have 2 HP, so cutting through them is a little bit more difficult with the Irondrakes, but you can see that there is a lot of greenskin death where my Irondrakes were firing into the blob. I've still already cut a decent dent into the greenskin hordes, but that's also true for Gojira and the Wa as well. They've done quite a bit of damage to my dwarf troops at this point in the battle. So we're just thinking about how to engage as this battle moves on. I'm still doing that layered defense, still letting my Irondrakes fire in, still throwing in my men piecemeal, which normally you wouldn't say is a good thing, but I think that it's better here than just committing a ton of my dwarf troops into the engagement right now, because that would prevent my Thunderers from firing. And like I said, need to make sure that my ranged troops are getting all their shots off in this battle, or it'll just be a waste of funds. I think both myself and Hellstorm Ross have committed a lot of our funds into Thunder and range units, so if they don't get their shots off, it's going to be a big waste, and a big waste of our unit cap as well. So need to make sure that those guys get their shots off. The good thing is that big guns and the boar boys, and the trolls specifically, giants as well, have bigger hitboxes, so they will be taller than my dwarf units, and that will allow my Thunders to fire into the blob even if my guys are behind the melee engagement. I have decided to commit some of my Ironbreakers. They're moving up to reinforce the Irondrakes. Let's take a look at the Skaven over on this side. Rat Ogres have made a big dent in the Slayers. I didn't bring any Slayers this game, but Hellstorm Ross did, and those Rat Ogres are actually going to do quite well. Slayers don't, I don't think they have a bonus versus large in this mod, which would be a nice touch if they did. Maybe they do, I'm not 100% sure. I don't use Slayers or the Dwarfs that often, but I think Rat Ogres are going to be able to make a nice little hole in the Dwarf defenses over on that side for the Skaven to pour through. So relatively soon here, we're going to be forced back into the center of our Karak, which I'm hoping that you guys love the look of this Karak. I think it looks amazing. Really well modeled, really interesting. Of course, it's not underground. It's more of the defenses outside the mountain, and then once you go inside, there would of course be layers and layers of defenses down below in the caverns, lots of different Karaks and parts of the city underground. That's where the majority of the city would be, but I still think it looks absolutely epic. And imagine if we had brought cannon towers this game. There'd be so much devastation wreaked in the Greenskin line, but even so, even without the cannon towers, we have done a ton of damage. Look at how many dead bodies there are so far. We're only 10 minutes into this game. Greenskins have gotten really beaten up at this point, but big guns are still pushing through, and we do have plenty of reinforcements, but this is bad. We didn't see it during the battle, but these are Hellstorm's troops, and our opponents did something that was very, very sneaky. Skaven player brought Warplock Jezzails, of course, and he moved them over, and he's going to get some really good shots onto the bridges that are inside the center of our citadel. And those Ironbreakers, which are very expensive, I believe they cost 3,500 to field, are going to get shredded by Warplock Jezzail fire. And Hellstorm is not going to notice it, I'm not going to notice it, and we're going to lose a lot of our elite troops to that Warplock Jezzail fire. And the Boar Boys have gotten into a threatening position. They're going to be going for these Thunders, who have a brilliant position to fire into the Skaven horde right now. They're behind that cliff, so nothing can charge through the center to get at them. But, of course, the Boar Boys have a lot of mobility. They are going to get around the flank and go straight for the Thunders. And they're not going to get a great charge off. And I have a surprise waiting for these Boar Boys, who think they have an easy meal with these Thunders. Easy pickings right here. Think they're going to just shred them. But nope. Irondrake fire coming in. And I'm going to flame the crap out of these Boar Boys as they open up with their volleys. Oh, look at that damage. Doesn't matter with that 2 HP. It's going to cut through them like butter. They'd already taken some damage. And now with one more volley, one more salvo from the Irondrakes, I should be able to cause them to panic and rout from the field. And there will be a bit of friendly fire on the Thunders, which is unfortunate. Don't want to be burning your own Dawi alive. So I feel bad for those that I did kill. But they are going to run, and they're going to run through our own troops into the waiting arms of more Irondrake fire. Oh, devastating. And yeah, I killed a couple of Dwarfs there, which is unfortunate. But that is a Boar Boy big gun unit down. That was a threatening unit, and it is now off the field. So very good. But Ironbreakers cut through by the Black Orcs, and the overwhelming odds from the big guns. They just scythed through my troops. Ironbreakers tried to hold their own, but not able to hold for long enough. And now we're going to have to pull pretty much everything back. There's a last stand of a couple just regular Dwarf warriors with shields, but those Black Orcs and the big guns should have no trouble cutting through them. And I need to make sure my Irondrakes get back inside the citadel away from all this carnage or they will go down. And I need to make sure my Irondrakes stay alive. They're way too important to lose at this point. And things are definitely getting very dire for the Dwarfs outside the gate. This part's going to be a little bit unfortunate because the Ratmen and the Groby are so close to the gate now, or maybe it was just because of a bug, but it won't actually open from the outside. We need... Wow, those Dwarf Thunders got wrecked by Jezzails. We need one of the Dwarf units from inside the Citadel to open it, and Hellstorm's troops were actually closer to the gate than mine, so pretty soon here I start telling them to open the gate, let's get our guys back in, we need to save all the routing troops who are kind of gathered at the gate right now. But we're going to end up doing it a little bit too late, and I'm actually going to get my Irondrakes shredded by Warplock Jezzail fire. I'm not going to pull them out in time. They're going to get sniped to pieces by those snipers from the Skaven. So you can see me trying to pull away now, but we need these Ironbreakers that are right here to actually pull forward and open the gate for us. They're going to do it a little bit too late. We're going to lose some troops there that we probably shouldn't have. That was also partially my fault. But we do have more Irondrakes in the back as well, so those will be very useful when we defend this gatehouse as the Skaven and the Greenskins try to push through. Now, the Dwarf Warriors are getting completely cut to pieces. They're going to be gone soon, and they'll finally move up the Warp Lightning Cannon and begin shooting at the front door. So you can see a couple of guys still hanging out there. They're trying to get through, and they just won't get there. But you might be wondering why we didn't bring artillery in this battle, and there is actually reasoning behind it. Like, surely you would think that's heresy not bringing artillery with the Dwarves, but I'm not sure what Hellstorm's reasoning was for not bringing it, but I was expecting Doom Diver artillery from Gojira, and Doom Divers are superb at counter battery tactics. They snipe down enemy artillery pieces with ease from really far ranges away. They do outrange Dwarf artillery. So I didn't want to sink a bunch of funds into mortars or cannons that wouldn't end up making a big impact on the battle. So at least if Gojira played it right, they wouldn't make a big impact. So I didn't want to deal with that. Maybe not the correct move, but there was reasoning behind that decision. Out here, actually, some of the Dwarf Slayers who are unbreakable are going to sally out and deal with these Rat Ogres. That is an interesting fight, but they are outnumbered by Rat Ogres at this point. So they will be cut to pieces. As good as Slayers are, they cannot take on Rat Ogres in 1v1 melee. Jezzails still going to work, and it is utter devastation over on this side. An entire Dwarf Thunder, or maybe, yeah, I think that was a Dwarf Thunder unit, and tons of dead Ironbreakers. At least a unit and a half of them completely shot to pieces. That is bad. That is going to turn things in the Skaven and Greenskins' favor for sure. But we have a very formidable defensive position at this point in the battle. We're going to make our stand at the gate, but we will have to wait a bit for the enemy troops to move up and blow down the gate. So we'll cut to that, and I will rejoin you in a second. So as we get back into the action, the Warp Lightning Cannon is going to punch a hole through the gate, and now our final defense will be subject to the true horrors that are Skaven war machines. Warp Lightning Cannon in this game is devastating to infantry, and you'll see that soon enough. But the Jezzails are still firing in from the flank and ripping into us, firing those deadly Warpstone shards across the chasm into our stout Dwarf Warriors. We do have pockets of Thunderers firing back, and they should be able to drop some of the Clan Scryer snipers, but we are outclassed in the skirmishing phase at this point. Hundreds of our finest Thunderers are dead and fallen outside to the numberless hordes that await outside of the gate. Now, I do want to make it clear, lore-wise, Greenskins and Skaven absolutely hate each other tremendously. Queek Headtaker, the warlord of Clan Wars, regularly dreams of disemboweling Skarsnik, the Night Goblin Chieftain, and adding his skull to his trophy rack, and Greenskins are of course not above ripping Ratmen apart and eating them for dinner, but they will occasionally work together to fulfill a larger purpose. For example, in the Rise of the Horned Rat novel that I read 5 or 6 months ago, the Vermin Lord Screech Vermin King convinces Skarsnik to help murder Belegar Ironhammer in exchange for a Skaven exodus from the City of Pillars, and they do successfully work together for a bit. They do accomplish some goals in capturing parts of the hold underground, but ultimately the Skaven betray Skarsnik, which he was expecting to happen anyway, and he was prepared for it, and a huge battle breaks out between the Night Goblins, the Goblins, and the Skaven. So they are both known. Certainly Night Goblins and Goblins in general are known for their manipulation and cunning, so are Skaven. Both of them are very likely to betray and backstab one another. But it is interesting that sometimes they will put aside their differences, even though they absolutely hate each other, to help take down the Dwarfs. And that really sucks for the Dwarfs, because when Awa and Skaven hordes are coming to your mountain at the exact same time, and you're that outnumbered, it becomes a serious issue when you're defending a broken down hold like Karak 8 Peaks. Now, this is going to start getting really brutal, because the Storm Vermin and the Black Orcs have made it inside the gate, but I have my Irondrakes in a perfect position here to fire in, and look at the immolation, look at the burning destruction as they open fire. Let's see if more shots come. They can have some issues when they're deployed the way they are. You want to make sure that the entire line is firing, but oh, look at that. Yeah, that killed 8, 9, 10 of those models, and I'm going to pull them back and try to get them into a better position where I can form the entire line and have the entire unit shoot. You saw a lot of them were not shooting there, so I will pull them back up again pretty soon. I'm going to be honest, I wanted to be kind of nice here, because even though the Warp Lightning Cannon and the Jezzails, we don't have too many answers for them, we could probably throw all of our Dwarfs at the gate right now and have the Irondrakes just kill every single unit that comes through the gate. And I think that would be kind of unfair. There's no real way. They have the Warp Lightning Cannon, which could kill the Irondrakes, but I didn't want to get like 1,500 kills here at the end of the battle. So I'm not going to keep my Irondrakes there for the entire time. I did want to be kind of fair, but I am going to get a couple more absolutely devastating salvos off before I decide to pull back my Irondrakes. So even more Greenskins, even more. Oh my god! Oh my god, I'm not kidding you. That probably killed 60 or 75 units. And that's not. I'm talking about like big guns and storm vermin and black orcs and really important units. That killed so many. And when I saw that, that's when I was like, I don't think I can keep doing this. This is going to be really broken. And yes, it's entertaining, but I can't do that to their entire army. It'd be so mean. So I'm going to pull my Irondrakes back, but that changed this battle a little bit. That changed the complexion of what's going on a little bit, because we were on the back foot, and that routed a lot of their units and killed a lot of them as well. Now, they should rally, they should come back, but that was utterly devastating and awesome. So, the Flames have done their work so far. I still have the Irondrakes. Hopefully they won't get shot by Jezzails or by the Warp Lightning Cannon, but I think that Mobius has positioned his Warp Lightning Cannon to fire now. Oh my god, and look at the devastation. Those are Great Beards. Those are high-tier dwarf axes. One of the two best dwarf infantry units in the entire game, alongside the Elders. Those Great Beards are a big loss to have when you lose about a third or a fourth of the entire unit to a Warp Lightning Cannon shot. So I think Mobius is going to be nice as well. He's not going to completely destroy our garrison in the center of that plaza. He could kill our entire army with that siege engine. Even more going to die now, but I think he is going to stop firing relatively soon, because again, we would lose our entire army to that Warp Lightning Cannon. We don't have an answer for it. It could kill everything. So I think he's going to chill with that as well. I'm going to chill with the Irondrakes. Maybe get one more volley off. We'll see. But yeah, the Ironbreakers are holding on steady right now. They are pushing back the Rat Ogres and the Albino Guard, who have now made it into melee. Albino Guard are an amazing halberd unit. Like I said, they are the bodyguards of the Grey Seers, and they can do tons of damage in melee. I do think they have multiple HP. I think they have 3 hit points as well. They're really good. So they should be able to create a foothold, and this is the problem now. The Skaven have held on to most of their elite units. Just now, in this final part of the battle, the Rat Ogres and the Clan Pestilens Plague Monks and the Seer Council, the Grey Seer Bodyguard, Council Guard rather, are going to get committed into melee. And most of these have multiple HP, and they're really good. They can take on Ironbreakers, who only have 1 HP. They have an amazing armor value, but they will struggle fighting against this many high-tier Skaven troops. So, we're outnumbered. They have a lot of their elite troops still firing in, still entering melee combat. They have the Warp Lightning Cannon firing into our flank, which causes huge morale penalties. As you see, some of our Dwarf Warriors are already breaking, and we're about to get overrun and pushed back into the actual center of the plaza. I have to pull back my Irondrakes, who are getting chased. We do have a line of Ironbreakers to hold the line right at the end of the bridge before they get to the entrance to the Silverhorn. but it is getting really scary at this point. And that manipulation and that cunning that the Greenskins and the Skaven demonstrate so often in the lore has definitely paid dividends here. The Dawi of the City of Pillars are slowly, incrementally being pushed further and further back towards the entrance to the Silverhorn. That gate will not be opening for us. There is no escape at this point in the battle. We're going to make our last stand here and succeed in pushing back the hordes, or we're going to die in the attempt. There's nowhere to run at this point. So into the plaza we go, into the final last stand. The dwarfs will make big guns and boar boys and black orcs and clan pestilence, plague monks, and council guard, and all of these units are pushing through across the bridge into the center of this Karak. And look at all the dead. Look at the utter devastation that has been wrought in this battle. Thousands of dwarfs, thousands of Skaven and Greenskins littering the battlefield, and now another horrifying creation of the clan Scryer Skaven clan. That machinery is going to be, oh, it's going to be so messed up when he gets those Ratling Gunners into a position to fire into our flank. Hopefully we'll be able to kill them, but we're running real low on reinforcements at this point. Not a whole lot left to deal with the enemy. Going to be very problematic. And actually the Orc boar boys have gotten into my Irondrakes. They're killing some of them. That's really bad. I'm going to call for Hellstorm to reinforce there. Storm Vermin getting into the flank of our Ironbreakers, who are holding relatively well at the moment. But can they really beat this much albino guard, this many plague monks? Very doubtful. Jezzails still providing that fire support across the chasm, firing into the flank. And things are looking very dire indeed. But we have the Irondrakes, and they are a great equalizer. Need to make sure they start firing. Need to get them into a better formation so that the entire unit fires. It's a good shot right there. Probably killed a couple dwarfs, but yeah, it did. Oh god. But the Greenskin General is going to go down. The War Boss is going to drop to an Ironbreaker axe. Maybe that will be the kind of change we need in this battlefield to change the complexion of what's going on. Possibly turn the battle in our favor. With some good Irondrake fire coming directly after the death of the General, that could cause a mass rout. So that's what we're banking on right now. But the threat from Clan Scryer has moved up. The Ratling Gunners, these guys are devastating. You've seen them in my replays before. You've seen the kind of devastation they can unleash. Can completely obliterate an entire unit in seconds. And look at that. They're going to shoot into our Irondrakes, and that is going to be really bad for our dwarf army. We need these Irondrakes to turn the battle in our favor, and they cannot compete. They don't fire anywhere near fast enough to drop those Skaven models, and they are going to die to the last man, it looks like. Get one more shot off, and unfortunately not going to be able to kill any of those Ratling Gunner models, and now they have free reign to fire into the flanks, cause a massive morale penalty with those Warpstone shards that are firing in, and just the amount of casualties they'll cause in such quick succession. And those Ironbreakers, who are some of the tankiest, best morale troops in the game, at least at 1 HP, are going to break and run back to the plaza. I'm going to try to reinforce with a handful of my own Ironbreakers. Look at that, there are only like 8 or 11 guys in that unit. They're going to run up and chase off the Ratling Gunners, but they're not fast enough. I did drop 2 of them on the charge, which is good. But in these last like 2 or 3 minutes, things have turned very sour for the Dawi of the City of Pillars. Things are not looking good at all. Those Ironbreakers are going to get cut to shreds by the halberds of the Council Guard. Those albino ratmen doing work, cutting through the Gromroll armor. And now with the shots from the Ratling Gunners coming in, definitely going to cause some friendly fire there. Very Skaven thing to do, murder your own troops. But they're going to push through, and now we are just getting overwhelmed. It's going to be a grind-it-out melee fest here at the end of all things. But I don't know. We're going to need a miracle to turn this battle in our favor. And the Dance of Death is going to continue on. Dwarfs getting ground down. Greatbeards making their last stand with those massive great weapons. Shields on their backs. Gold Gromroll from head to toe. Should be able to do relatively well against the Council Guard. But things are getting really bad because the Ratling Gunners have now flanked our entire infantry formation. Nothing really in the back to deal with them. We can peel off a couple of units, which I'm going to do. Remnants of my Ironbreakers in the back, going to charge them down. But it is so easy for Ratling Gunners to scythe through individual units and blocks of infantry. You really need fast movers. I did close the gap, did manage to kill 3 or 4 of them, and I'm dropping a lot of them here. Ratling Gunners might be able to pull out, but not many of them left, and so their killing power is dramatically reduced at this point. But Council Guard are going to pull away and engage my Ironbreakers from the rear. Elders, Greatbeards, Ironbreakers, the last of my units. Pretty much no Dwarf Warriors left on the field at all. None of the lower tier stuff. It's all the Ironbreakers and the high tier stuff. Big guns in the back, standing over a pile, a mountain of Dawi corpses. And it's just been such a bloodbath here at the entrance to the Silverhorn. Council Guard getting ready to flank. Ratling Gunners, now 2 of them in the back, shooting into the back of our Greatbeards. And I was actually really curious. I doubt many of you have read Rise of the Horned Rat. Slight spoilers coming. I won't delve into specifics really, but for those of you who have read about Belegar Ironhammer, look at that charge. He's going to completely miss the Ratling Gunners. But I was curious what you guys thought of Belegar Ironhammer in Rise of the Horned Rat. Did you dislike him? Did you like him? Are you ambivalent about him? I actually personally hated that character in that novel, which was really the inspiration for me doing this battle in the first place. The 3-way war for the Karak 8 Peaks is what that novel focuses on. But I hated that character because, well, one, I found myself liking Queek and Thankwall and the Vermin Lords a lot more because as evil as they are, they're true to their nature and offer some sense of comic relief and guile and wicked intelligence. But Belegar is just a caricature of the Dwarfs. He's a brave and fantastic fighter, but he's so hot-headed and so stubborn that he literally refuses the help of his High King and forces his entire family, including his wife and child, to stay inside a doomed Karak that is completely surrounded and besieged by Skaven and Greenskins. Completely forbids them from leaving, from getting to safety, even when there are multiple opportunities to get them to safety. And I mean, if you want to sacrifice your warriors and yourself as part of a time-honored martial tradition, that's one thing. But dooming the women and the children is just about as low as it can get, and that's what he does. And I really hated him for that in that novel. I think they made him a really crappy character that was hard to sympathize with. And it was weird that I liked Skaven, who are really evil, way more than the Dwarves, who are supposed to be better. But I am going to drop the Queek General here, the Skaven General here, and the Greatbeards are making their final last stand. They're amazing melee fighters, but surrounded by 1 Ratling Gunner and then all of these Council Guard on both flanks with those Warpstone shots pouring in and dropping my models like crazy. So many brave Dawi dead, remnants of the Clan Pestilence, Plague Monks in there as well. Greatbeards make their final stand, but they will die, and Skaven and Greenskins will take the entrance to the Silverhorn and be able to continue their war deeper into Karak 8 Peaks and eventually go down and fight King Belegar Ironhammer himself. Looking at the kills across the board, relatively even actually from each player. So many dead. Mobius did really well actually, he had almost 2,000 kills. A lot of that came down to the Jezzails, who ripped apart our Ironbreakers in the back lines. My Irondrakes each easily got over 100 kills. One of them got over 200. That was the one that was right at the entrance to the gate as the Greenskins and the Skaven poured through the breach. And looking at Hellstorm Ross's army, one of his Longbeards did very well. A couple of his Thunders and Dwarf Warriors did relatively well also. But in the end, the Dawi of the City of Pillars, unable to defend the entrance to the Silverhorn, they will die to a man, or to a dwarf rather. And the Greenskins and the Skaven will continue their war deeper into the hold. Hope you guys enjoyed.